Hello, Algebra 2 students. I'm looking at for Mr. Fry, this solving systems of equations using elimination. It is posted now on the 14th and is due on the 15th. So let's get started. If you watch the video, it's going to be very helpful in, it's good at explaining these problems, and you can explain this example in these steps. I went ahead and did 13 and 19 at the bottom. I'm just sticking with the odds. In number 13, we had these two problems already set up. I really don't have to manipulate it at all because the y's are going to cancel out themselves just the way they are. And when I add these two equations up, I eliminate the y's by doing that, and I get x equals 8. How I got that? 7 plus 9 is 16, and 2x's is 2x. I just solve for x. When I plug in my 8 for the x value, in either one of these, you'll notice that I'll get -1. And then when you plug in your -1, when you plug in these numbers, you'll see they will work. I went through and checked these on my calculator to make sure that they work. You just plug in the x value, plug in the the y value, this -1. In all of these problems I checked in order to make sure that they were correct, and you could do so also. For number 19, you did have to manipulate it, and the way I manipulated it, and there's several different ways, is I wanted to get rid of the y. So I'm getting rid of the y I multiplied all terms by 3. I end up with this equation. These cancel out, that's why I did it. They eliminate. I eliminate the y value, and I get 5x equals 25. I solve for x. How did I get this 5x 25? 18 times 7 is 25. 3 plus 2 is 5x. I divide both sides by 5. I get x equals 5. I substitute my 5 in for either one of these problems, my original problems. I'm just going to, by default, pick the first one all the time. It doesn't matter which one you pick. You'll get the same answer. I substituted my 5 in for x, and I end up getting y equals -1 by doing my algebra. Number 1. We had these two problems in number 1. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do any manipulating. You just add the two problems and you're eliminating the x. So I solve for y. I add these up, and then I solve for y, and I get a -6. I plug in my -6 for a y value, and I chose the first one again. And so then I solve for x, get the variable alone on one side, and I get x equals 6. So my x is 6 and my y is -6. He's probably going to want you to write your answers, like this: 6, -6, like that. Number 3, you don't have to do any manipulating in order to get rid of your y values. You just add these two equations up, and I get 3x and I get 30. I solve for x by dividing both sides by 3, and I get x equals 10. I substitute my x value in for the first problem, and I get 10 minus y equals 11. And then I solve for y, and I get -1. So my answer would be 10, -1. Move on to number 5. For number 5, I do have to manipulate this one, and the way I did it is I multiplied all the terms in the second equation by -1, and by doing that, notice I was able to eliminate my y values. I solve for x, and I get x equals -1. I plug in my -1 for the first problem where x is found, and I isolate the variable y on one side, and I get y equals 3. For number 7, I manipulate the second equation by multiplying all the terms by -1. This is going to help me get rid of the x value. Notice when I do that, I get -6x and a plus 6x. So these cancel out. So then I'm solving for my y. I add these up. I plug in my y value, and I end up solving for x. So my answer here would be 5 and 6. 5 and 6. Okay. That one before, number 5, it was -1, 3. So you probably should write it like this: -1, 3. Okay. For number 9, I manipulated the top one by multiplying by -2, all of the terms by -2. That way I could get rid of my x values. So I solve for y. I get y equals 4. I plug in that 4 for y in that first problem. I end up getting 1 for my x. So my answer would be 1 and 4. And then 11, I'm going to multiply everything by a -3. And that's going to help me get rid of my x values. I add the problem up. I get -16, y equals 64, y equals -4. I plug in that -4 into my y in the first problem. Then I solve for x. And so here's my y value, here's my x value, and your answer should look like this: -4, -4. Go ahead and try the evens on your own. By the way, I noticed that you could look up these if you just do a Google search on the CUDA software, these solving systems of equations and eliminations. But please use that just to check your answers. I mean, it's going to have all the steps listed there for you and everything. But try them first and then see if you're doing it right. Treat it as a puzzle so that you can solve these on your own in the near future. Good luck.